Good afternoon, friends. During the announcement, I was taken back 22 years ago. And Ashford, it felt as yesterday. So I didn't plan to say this, but I will make two comments on that memory. Maybe three. So I was the one who had spoken on that day, 22 years ago. And it was based on a request from the two people who were installed. It was a double installation. So one, it seems as though it was just yesterday. So the next few years will just disappear. Make good use of it. And in addition, following that service, or the following morning rather, I got a call from someone close to where your office is. And I thought I was being admonished for what I had said. So I said, well, listen, I think we should sit and have a conversation about what I said. After 22 years, we never had that conversation. So I would say to you, I don't intend to say anything controversial. But if someone thinks I may have said, please, we will have a conversation at some time, all right? Ashford, Tamby, I had the privilege of having worked with you from November 2015 to October 2020. Many beautiful things in that journey. But one of the things for which I am always grateful is how you supported me with values education in 8 schools, which included 2 government primary schools. That support has sustained me over the years, and that is why values education for our nation continues to be one of the important things in my agenda. But long before 2015, you were so active in this tradition. You represented the young people of your community on your local board when you were in your mid-teens. And you continued over the years and decades. And in the announcement, we caught a glimpse of your involvement in the church at every level. You have been the salt of the earth. You have been the light of the world by any standard any one of us could set. And so as you assume or as you continue into this role, I want to make a few suggestions as you continue along the path of being salt, the flavor, and light, so that you would know where you are going and others could follow. I make reference to the mission statement of 2007, 28 approved by the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the 28th of September 2007. Just a part of it. Missions of the church are to promote and encourage the development of persons and societies through education. Act for the transformation of persons, societies, and the world through the alleviation of suffering, affliction, disease, poverty, and injustice. Promote ecumenism and dialogue with the Christian religion and with other religious traditions. In light of having made reference to the metaphors of light and salt, in light of having read part of our mission statement, I want to make 3 suggestions, or suggest 3 areas which should be considered seriously. The first is, the church should consider mobilizing individuals and groups in response to urgent needs. Now, that is nothing strange to you. You are in the business of mobilization. Late last year, you mobilized the principals of our 5 secondary schools, and you put things together, and I was able to conduct a values education program for teachers in terms of teacher development, continuous education. That program has almost come to an end with our secondary schools. So you know about mobilizing. Now I ask you to consider mobilizing qualified people from throughout our church to consider the establishment of a drug rehabilitation facility. Many years ago, and perhaps today it is worse, some of us in Marabella had done some little survey, and we concluded, based on some data, that 1 out of every 5 Presbyterian homes had a drug addict, mine included. Perhaps that has increased, I do not know. Now, there has been thought about a drug rehabilitation facility. I see Carlos and some friends from Aramalaya here. In 1993, when we established the Morton House Spiritual Life Enrichment Center, that was phase 1 of 3 phases, or at least supposed to be. And we had decided then that in 5 years, we would have realized a project which would have raised funds for a 3rd project, which was supposed to be a rehabilitation center. But that did not happen. Too many challenges came. And then in Shabwana, some of us spoke about a rehabilitation center, but it is too much work for one region or one presbytery. Perhaps from your secretariat, from your table, you could send out something, of course with the relevant approvals, the moderator and the synod and so, and invite qualified people from all our regions and begin to have that conversation. In addition, I feel there should be mobilization as regards all our religious entities in this country to come together and talk about just one thing, not too many, just talk about global warming. That's all. It's real, and it's getting worse. So every Sunday in our churches and mosques and temples, we should have some little slot to remind our people how to behave in relation to how we treat the earth. Ashford, you see how much work there is to do? And then mobilize our religions again and say to our religious leaders, send people from your communities who could come and talk about crime and violence. I am not a pessimist, neither am I an optimist. I am a realist. And I'll tell you something. If you feel things bad in Trinidad and Tobago today, you don't have the imagination to think about where we are going. Today it is still peaceful. If it continues in this trajectory in a few years' time, we may not even be able to stand in a place like this and have a good time. Summon the religions. Don't just come together with them to take pictures and so. Let them send their human resources. Let them send their criminologists and their forensic psychologists, their youth correctional counselors, their forensic science technicians, their criminal profilers, their investigative reporters. Send all of them. Because our present situation with crime and violence is a very complex one. But these things are going to take energy. And you have a very limited secretariat. The resources of the Presbyterian Church is very small, or are limited. Therefore, you will have to prioritize. Put before you what is on your agenda at present. See if what you are doing is relevant, and adjust that agenda according to what is most important. I always make reference to G.K. Chesterton. He said, the Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and left untried. This is the second point. Claudia said you just talk too short, so I had to say, well, today I will talk a bit longer. The second point has to do with, in being light and salt, you are an educator. And I am happy that in your personal journey, you pursue academics at the highest level. But of course, you know that education is way more than academics. An educator is one who leads people out of ignorance. One who leads people out of ignorance. And you will know that the teacher who ceases to learn loses the power to teach. There is need, therefore, for the widest knowledge base in order to be an effective leader. In your role as General Secretary, in your role as presiding elder, or in the role of being a minister of the word and sacrament, whatever it is, you need a very wide, a broad knowledge base. You see, we must be able to ask the questions And then we must be able also to question the answers. Over the years, people have asked me with some kind of stressful voice, should we really be giving 10%? Because some churches, some individuals keep telling their people that, oh, you need to give 10%. And then they say, okay, well, let's forget the Old Testament, come to the New Testament, give in proportion to what you receive. You can't tell people what to give. If you create a beautiful environment in your church where people are committed and where people love each other, and where people want to promote the programs of their church, you don't have to talk one word about offering. It is a natural, automatic consequence or outcome of people's commitment. And yet we have people who are telling their members to give 10%. And you see, Ashford, always remember, anyone could take the Bible and justify any position they want to justify. The Bible is a beautiful book, but we just cannot take it up and go and quote it and tell people to live by that. The Bible is not prescriptive, it is descriptive. So if anybody wants to question me on that, we'll have a conversation at another time. Education, extremely important. You see, 50 years ago, there was a huge discussion and many books were written on faith and reason. Today I am suggesting that the issue is faith and rationality. Take a step beyond reason, because I have found that even reason many people make relative based on their own definition. Rationality is a little more difficult to twist. In being the salt of the earth and the light of the world, and this is the third and final point. The first point, the church should be a mobilizing agent. The second point, emphasis should be placed on education. And the third point, to live a life where we are salt and light, we must aim to live authentically. Aim to live the authentic life. Now I hear people saying that all the time, but they don't define it. And that is part of our problem in education. We are not defining or explaining. So I just want to highlight 5 traits of an authentic person, or a person who is aiming to live the authentic life. And the first is, the authentic person spends time in self-reflection and self-examination. When we could bring up, remember, even talk about our errors, that is a gateway to improvement. The other day I was chatting with a friend and she said to me, boy, you see me, I really can't remember making any error. Huh? I said, we have to get some medication for you. You are losing your memory. And if there's any human who says that I really have not made any error, then you really need some kind of help. Because we have all made error. I could talk about them, but not in this big group. I might be embarrassed. And I don't want to really hear about your error. I want to deal with my own. So that is one of the first things with the authentic life. You know, the clergyman and philosopher Norman Vincent Peale once said, spend so much time improving yourself that you have no time left to criticize others. But that is important. No, that is a challenging thing, because most humans love to gossip. Gossip is natural. But sometimes we have to fight against what is natural. Gita, when you go home and somebody call you tonight and say, girl, let me talk about what these things Elvis say, you, let me make a cup of tea and sit down. Don't do that. Say, girl, I'm going in my room and I'm going to sit down alone and think about my own errors in life. And I'm going to try to deal with them. A second sign, a second trait of the authentic person is a person who respects others. And I have come up with a definition for respect. To respect someone means to value that person no matter how different that person might be. So that is the entry point. No matter how much I agree or disagree with that person, that is a person of value. And we work on these things. It doesn't happen overnight. And then we make a little shift. So instead of me looking for the little negatives, no, I'm going to make a shift. Let me look for the positive because there's value in that person. Another trait for the authentic life. Gratitude. Another trait. Ashford, in our tradition, I feel we do not embrace gratitude for what it means. We treat gratitude at the level of ceremony. You see what happens? Somebody passes an exam, there is a little success, somebody gets some back pay or some extra money, they call the reverend and they have a little thanksgiving. So gratitude has become like an occasional gesture, a reaction to something. Gratitude is supposed to be a human condition. And I always say to groups now, hey, I make reference to Aldous Huxley's spermatozoa, and I say to people, hey, out of millions of possibilities, you are the one. Are you not grateful? This morning you were able to open your eyes. Are you not grateful? You don't have to receive something to be grateful, just be grateful. Gratitude is a trait of the authentic person. The authentic person seeks clarity because clarity is power. When we were, well, the older folks here, when we were growing up, you know, we grew up hearing knowledge is power. That is still so, eh? But now, there's too much knowledge. There's misinformation. There's false information. There's wrong information. And while we took weeks and months to find a little bit of knowledge, now you could get it with one touch. So what is important? Clarity. Because you have to sift that knowledge. All that information you have to sift. You have to verify. And if you don't verify and you believe everything you see and hear, then you are very foolish. But I know nobody here is like that. So clarity or seeking clarification is a sign that this person is authentic. Ashford, a final thing. as you pursue the authentic life. Find healthy balance between individualism and the common good. I will explain that. Find healthy balance between individualism and the common good. Now, we do things and all of us have some benefit from what we do. That is natural. But look carefully at the leaders who have gone before you throughout the church. Some will show you where to go and some will show you where not to go. We have had wonderful leaders who lifted and encouraged members of the community. And we have had leaders who would not take brilliant ideas from members of the community because those ideas did not do any good for them. There is where you will be challenged in a way. We have many brilliant people in our community, in our Presbyterian tradition, and beyond. They are going to come with ideas. They are going to come with solutions. Take them on seriously. And if you come across a good idea, even if it doesn't benefit you, still embrace it. That is a sign of an authentic person. Ashford, thank you for asking me to speak these words. You are part of a beautiful tradition. We have no choice now in this country but to make PCTT a mobilizing agent. Bring people together to address the social ills. We who are clergy members and leaders in other spheres and fields, we do not know everything. We know very little. There are people there who know and who could help us. And then when they come and they have a solution, say, okay, this is what we're going to take to our government. And if our government don't listen, then we will take a further step, a peaceful further step. Your role is educator. A big and important role. And you are going to pursue the authentic life. Thank you for listening.